Hello Funkers, Tony Funk here. Welcome to this new Tony Tangents. This particular tangent was inspired by a video I saw from Joey Bissinger, also known as the Anime Man. I'd like to thank him for bringing attention to this whole situation that happened. Basically, what I want to do today is talk about whether or not it is okay for media to adapt real world scenarios in order to, even if it's a positive message, in order to create a story out of it. This video is going to be about that. It's going to be about, the merits of doing such a thing and whether or not it is the right thing to do. So to give you guys some context, basically, as we all know in Oshi no Ko, if you've seen Oshi no Ko, there's this character named Akane. She participates in a dating show called Love Now, and due to her not standing out in the show, tries to steal one of the boys from another character named Yuki, and she ends up scratching her in the face. And so this altercation ends up her being roasted and, publicly crucified by Japanese Twitter, and it causes her almost to take an attempt on her life. Well, I think the way that this was done was, very tactful. I thought it was a really good depiction of what happens in show business when somebody just makes an honest mistake and, the consequences, just how severe they are with public opinion when, everybody starts going up against you and criticizing you for something. Now, I want to explain the similarities because this was something that Joey Bissinger didn't go into. So we actually need to understand just how similar these two things are. So let me talk about Hana Kimura first. So Hana Kimura is seen here. She's this professional wrestler right here. She ended up being on this show called Terrace House. So Terrace House, it's actually a dating show where they have 6 people, 3 gentlemen and 3 women live in the same house, and it's a reality show where they just kind of, tensions flare up or whatever, and they try to date each other and stuff like that. Well, there's the first similarity. Terrace House is a dating show, much like Love Now. So in Terrace House, there was a scene where a gentleman accidentally washed Hana Kimura's wrestling clothes and shrunk them. He didn't mean to, whatever, but it angered Hana Kimura. Now, according to Hana Kimura's mother, whose name is Kyoko Kimura, what ended up happening was that somebody in production told Hana Kimura to slap the individual who washed her clothes on accident. And she couldn't bring herself to do it. And so what ended up happening was this. So she walks up to him and throws his hat, says, "Don't touch me," and then walks off, right? Which I think is a pretty, it looks like it's been played up a little bit, but I mean, depending on how expensive this clothing was, this wrestling clothing was, and I mean, from the looks of it, it does look very niche, very, difficult to acquire. Yeah, you're going to get angry, depending on how expensive it was, how special it was, chances are you're going to be upset about that. Right. But what ended up happening was that she was bullied to such an extent that, at 22 years of age, she ended up taking her own life, which is extremely tragic. But I think the similarities are there. They were both dating shows. They both reacted aggressively towards one of their co-stars. And in both situations, it was kind of not instigated, but it was played up by the production. As we know with Akane, the production, they just showed the juicy part. So there's just an obvious parallel there. Now, something that's really interesting is that Oshi no Ko started its original run in April 23. So by the time that they reached the section where Akane did what she did during that Love Now arc, well, that was still pretty fresh in the zeitgeist. It must have been a few months after Hana Kimura's untimely departure. There's this proximity in time where we see Akane's attempt on her own life with the freshness of the story of Hana Kimura with Terrace House. So by comparing these two incidents and seeing just how similar they are, and not only that, but also on top of that, seeing how close they are in time from, the publication of the chapter and this incident, when it went live and everything, they're very close. Now, an interesting thing to note is that one of the individuals who was cyberbullying Ms. Kimura was arrested, some man in his mid-20s from Osaka. This is just really interesting. Let's read it. It says, "Couldn't forgive Kimura's attitude on the program." That was his motivation for abusing her online. Just the way in which the depiction of Japanese Twitter was in their insults towards Akane, like this kind of verbiage is just very similar to what we saw as well. I mean, I'm here to say, without a shadow of a doubt, Akane was 100% inspired by this, and the similarities are crisp. Now, like I said, irregardless of how much tact was used in the depiction of Akane's situation, there's one thing that we need to talk about. Now, just before I kind of go into the nuances of this, first and foremost, I am a defender of art. I think there should be no limits legally to art. I think all art has the freedom to depict whatever it wants, because at the end of the day, art is just art. There are no victims in art, given that it's ethical and whatever. You can make a movie that depicts some horrible things. At the end of the day, no one is getting hurt. Having said that, whether or not it makes you a shitty person in doing certain things, for money or whatever, that's a different story. I think the author, Akane was not careful and was not diligent enough to think about the repercussions of writing something so similar to something that was so fresh in the Japanese zeitgeist. And not just that, but Hana Kimura was survived by her mother. He didn't think about how that would affect Hana Kimura's loved ones. So I think it was an honest mistake from Aka, but at the same time, I think that there is a problem here. I think the more responsible thing to do would have been for Aka to change more events in the story so that, yes, it does resemble something that happens in the entertainment industry, but by taking a story and using that as a template was careless. And the reason for that is that Hana Kimura's mother, Kyoko Kimura, is going to live with that hole in her heart for the rest of her life. Think about the emotional aspect of it. It's a stab in the gut. I understand that Kyoko Kimura may never stop mourning. That's normal. But a little bit of understanding from both, the public sphere and the author would really help to ease these things. So anyway, Funkers, I wanted to talk about how important it is to have empathy, how similar these two stories were, like unbelievably similar, and why fictionalized depictions of real events that are fresh in the zeitgeist is not a good idea, especially when there are family members of the victims who are still alive and it's still fresh in the zeitgeist. So stay empathetic, and thank you for watching this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would love to see your guys' point of views, but yeah, just wanted to share my point of view. So thank you guys, and as always, take care, and I shall see yas down the road.